Booker and Stryker. It is Alt 98.7. Look who has joined us, Mike Shinoda.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hi.
Mike.
It's so nice to be with you.
So,
It's lovely.
yes. First of all, LinkinPark.com, before the news was announced, you had the clock going down. I thought you had invaded my laptop and ruined
we
it.
gave you a virus.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So for younger fans, I think they didn't know what was going on. Like, there were some people who were legitimately, like, they went on LinkinPark.com and like, oh shit, like we got a virus for a moment. But it's like, if you look at the page, you're like, oh, okay, this is like a countdown. But for any fan that was around when people were file sharing, like getting songs on Napster and stuff like that, the reason we did that is because back then, when Meteora was I think launching and already out even, our song Numb, you had if you illegally downloaded Numb, you had a 50-50 chance of downloading a virus. Like, it was like half the time people were like, God damn it, like Numb ruined my computer. So that wasn't on us. That wasn't like, some people have actually said that was like a conspiracy. It was like a record label ploy to like punish people who are stealing music.
Oh.
They actually made up that narrative. Really funny. Obviously not. We would never like put viruses on our fans' computers. That'd be insane. But yeah, so we were like, there's a bunch of stuff around the 20th anniversary of Meteora, which is the album that Numb came from.
Mm-hmm.
And we are really excited about this release. And so we've cooked up a really nice like fan experience with like a scavenger hunt and some other stuff that's on the way.
Let's talk about the track. This thing was hidden where?
It was literally, okay, so we did a 20th anniversary for Hybrid Theory, which was our first album. And that went well. So we were like, okay, well, the fans liked that. Let's see if there's something, do we want to keep doing? I was kind of like, do we want to keep doing this? I don't know if that's annoying, like whatever.
No.
And we
It's not annoying. I think people really are clamoring for
here's
anything,
what happened.
bro.
Here's what happened. We went into, each of us went into hard drives of stuff. And because I'm kind of the band's internal producer, I've got a lot of stuff. And there's other stuff in like storage, whatever. We started going through all of the stuff, the old drives and everything, to see what we've had. And we'd find like, oh, there's this like live performance that no one's ever seen. Oh, there's these videos that no one's ever seen. Oh, there's tapes and tapes of videos that no one's ever seen. We've got enough to make a full documentary, like a 90-minute
That's all
documentary.
video stuff right there.
Right.
Which is amazing to hear that you have enough stuff for
We
that.
found demos of all the other, all of the songs that made the albums, demos of songs that didn't make the album. And then we found Lost. So Lost was a song that we completely finished and mixed. We may have even mastered it. It was ready to go. And we were picking songs for Meteora, and we had to draw the line somewhere. It's like, it's going to be, let's say, 12 songs. Here's where that ends. And Lost was number 13. And the only reason it didn't make it onto the album was because it was too similar to Numb in like energy. And we were like, yeah, we've got one of those on the record. Like, we don't need two of them. It would have to like take the spot of a different one, and we didn't want to do that.
Do you think, though, after it's released, what if? Or does the track just kind of leave your mind like you're done with it? It's something we did. Do you dwell on it? Did you dwell on it? Did the guys all get together?
I think at the time it was among 2 or 3, maybe 4 songs that at the time we were considering doing something with. Mm-hmm. And then as time went on, the band, so here's some context about that moment in time. The band went from, hey, I live at my mom and dad's house, to we have the biggest album on the planet Earth. And that's not hyperbole. It was literally the biggest album. It's like hard to imagine right now, like if that came out today and somebody told you that would mean bigger than Drake, bigger than Adele, bigger than The Weeknd, bigger than Post Malone, and name everybody. It was bigger. And so for us, that was almost impossible to wrap our minds around. We came off the road. Well, we were finishing up our touring cycle and starting to record things on the road. And we knew that we wanted, number one, to kind of like evolve our sound, because we were getting lumped in with all these other like new metal bands that sounded like our first album sounded a little bit. And there were also there were other bands that were coming out with a debut album that was trying to sound like Hybrid Theory. So we were like, we gotta get ahead of all this. And we gotta open up the doors to different things. So by the time we finished Meteora and we had achieved that, we had made an album we felt like was a step up. We had made an album that we were proud of and we thought was as good as Hybrid Theory. And then most importantly, there were songs on it like Breaking the Habit, there was Session, there was Nobody's Listening. There were these songs that, even Faint to some degree, there were these songs that we knew opened the door to different approaches of music that we wouldn't have had. So going into the album past that, like we wouldn't have looked backwards.
They showed growth
Yeah.
of the band.
Yeah.
And so you wouldn't really look back because that was a time when you were trying to not do the
we
same
were
thing
trying
again.
to
Makes sense.
do
Okay.
more different stuff, yeah.
Mike Shinoda is with us on Booker and Stryker. 20 years since the release of Meteora. It debuted #1, as you know. It sold millions and millions of copies. I remember being at the Wiltern when we had that worldwide broadcast to premiere the album. We were in the basement then,
Yeah.
Mike. With the song Lost, did you call Don Gilmore, who was a co-producer, before you decided to release this song? How did that
It's
work?
funny. No, I didn't speak to Don. I haven't spoken to Don yet. I hope I do, actually. Don's great.
You just put an idea to
Sorry, I don't know if that's
no,
good.
no, that's cool. I mean, like, I know we're all like, you know, whatever, buttoned up on this stuff. But the idea of I'll tell you something about Don. So Don, when we went in to do our first record with Don, he was one of on my short list of people I thought could do Hybrid Theory justice. And the reason was that I say that, like, one of the things for me was that the person had to have a real, like, masterful approach in terms of engineering. Like, they had to really know how to make a good rock record, but it had to have the fullness of a hip hop record. And he was one of the few that had that. Same with Andy Wallace, who mixed it. Like, the list was so the mixing list was just Andy Wallace, to be frank. So when we went in the studio and did Hybrid Theory, though, we were doing great stuff and we were really happy with a lot of the stuff we were making, but culturally it was a nightmare. We were miserable. Like, the band was very aligned on what we wanted to make, but the label was fighting us every day. People kept throwing in opinions about, oh, it shouldn't be this, it shouldn't be that. There were even suggestions the band shouldn't have any rapping, any hip hop like production or influence in it. And we were just like, we stuck to our guns, made Hybrid Theory, and the rest is history. The thing about Meteora was, we were like, well, that sucked. That Hybrid Theory process sucked, and we don't want to, like, I don't think we want to work with Don again, because he was letting the door open to all these, knuckleheads who are coming in, like, making our lives miserable.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be a great experience making
It's
this
supposed to
debut
be,
album.
yeah. I mean, I don't mind the difficulties and stress and like the things that can make making an album tougher. I don't mind that stuff, but there was extra stuff, and Don was aware of it. But he wanted a meeting, and we took it, and I said, and we asked him, okay, like, we're gonna let you go. Like, why should we do this with you? Like, first of all, thank you, congrats on the record, but like, also, we're in a different place. And he was like, basically, if you make Meteora with me, I promise you, we will make as good or better a record. I will devote 100% of myself to it, and I learned a lot making the last one, and I will eliminate all of that nonsense that happened on that first record. We will not experience it. And true to his word, we believed him. We could have been like, nah, he can't. But we believe him, and it did work out
But
that
you
way.
get
We
a say when
loved-
you have success, though. When you are
Yeah.
coming off of something so big, you can almost shut that door yourself, can't you? Like, it's just not happening this time.
We did take
There you
other
go.
meetings. We took
Wow.
other meetings, but we chose Don because it was like, and it was the right choice. He
Yeah.
was totally the right choice.
Mike, now that you have seen so much material and heard all this material, are you and the guys at all itching to do something more over the next 1 month to 12 months, 24 months?
I mean, I love that question. I feel like, so there's not any new, like, 2023 recording Linkin Park coming out right now. I've been actually the thing that I've been the most involved in. I've been producing stuff for other people, writing and producing for other people, and so I have some songs coming out. We just put out a song by Justice Bennett's, which I love. I have something on the way with Paris, not the
PVR Paris?
PVR
Yep.
Paris, yeah, not the blonde one, but the brunette one. And her name is Lynn. She's awesome. And then most importantly, I think this is a world premiere. I think I haven't really talked about this, so this is kind of cool. I have 2 songs in the new Scream film. Truth be told, like if you had asked me when I wanted to put them out, it wouldn't have been right next to Meteora, but that's when the movie comes out.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a huge month for Linkin Park fans. Like that's a brand new song.
A Mike Shinoda track.
Yeah, it's my track.
Congratulations.
Kaylee Morgue is singing on the track. She's incredible.
I know
if you don't
she
know her.
is, yes.
Kaylee is actually the reason I chose her is because she's like a massive Scream fan, and she's got a good voice too. So I was like, she's a perfect fit for this thing. So that's just I feel like that's just the start of our year. We'll see what happens after that, but there's a lot in store for Linkin Park fans this
So
year.
you're saying there's a chance. That's what I took from all of that. Is there a chance you guys get in a room and play some music together and play it in front of people again?
The first part, the get in a room together, is happening. We're like doing some interviews together. I saw Dave and Joe like this month.
How's it feel?
That's great, man. I always, that's like in the band, you know, in every band, there's people that hang out like a little more than others.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, Joe and I went to college together. So like we were like kind of college buddies. And then Dave and I spent a ton of time, like usually traveling, I'd say in the last 10 years, we're actually last 10 years of the band, so 15 years. The travel group, my group that I travel with was me, Dave, and Chester. That was our group. Like we were always, every trip to a hotel, to a show, to a airplane, whatever, like we were together all the time.
Does it trip you out at all as we sit here 20 years later for Meteora, and even a little more than that for your debut album, where there are 15-year-olds who are seeing you for the first time right now and saying to themselves, and there's proof in the amount of streams and the video views, holy cow, these guys are amazing. And then you've got new fans every week here that never knew of you before. And you put in all that work before to get to this point.
Well, we experienced different versions of it along the way. Like I remember playing the Hollywood Bowl, supporting, it was probably Hunting Party, which is our 6th album. And we played the Hollywood Bowl, and I remembered seeing there was a dad and a daughter on my like left side, and I'm watching. We were playing a song. When I noticed them, we were playing something from our like middle of our catalog, and they were just standing on their chairs, rocking out, like they were having the best time. And you could tell they weren't with anybody else. Like this was their daddy-daughter concert. And then we played One Step Closer, and which is, for those who don't know, is from our first record.
Right.
So it's usually for the older folks. And
We know how this movie
and
plays
the
out.
dad,
The dad got lit up.
lost it. He was like, ah, and he's like, he's like he had his arm around her, and I could see him like singing the words and saying stuff to her, and she's like soaking it, but she was so pumped. And then we played something newer. I don't remember what it was, and she did it to him. Like she was jumping up and down in her seat, and he like grabbed her to make sure she didn't fall over, and like she was telling him like, "This is my jam," basically.
That's so
It was
cool.
so cool.
What's it like to go back and talk about this stuff? I mean, you got to kind of dig into your memory bank of 20 years ago, being in the studio. Do you remember the moments of making this single? Do you remember looking at one another like, that was great? What were your memories? What are they?
I mean, I remember specifically on Meteora, there were a lot of firsts. Like we had done I think like Joe was really fine coming into his element with the way he did videos. I think the video that he ended up doing for Breaking the Habit is still one of my favorite videos that he ever directed for us. He did it with a very with an anime company from Japan that he had like linked up with and discovered. Shouldn't say discovered. They were very well established in their lane, but he did the video with them. I just loved that. And I remember we had this song called Faint. And
We've
heard of it. We're
the
DJs.
song.
We've played it 10 billion times.
How weird, by the way, somebody said to me the other day, like, you know what's weird is for a lot of DJs, a lot of radio DJs, you've been with Linkin Park like your whole career.
Yeah.
That's a weird, and I feel like that too. I was like, oh yeah, like, I know Striker's like we hang out. Like
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? Like that's such a weird thing.
I feel like we know the song actually a little better because as a band matures and they play out, the song changes a little bit. They add their element to it where we know every single nuance of a song. So if you do a little bit of a change, we're like, ooh, that's different.
Yeah, right,
You know?
totally. That's actually really interesting. I hadn't thought of it that way.
Mike, when you said that, I just think about we were both kind of starting our careers almost at the same
That's right. yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And I hadn't had someone similar to my age make it big right next to me like that before. And to see you go from playing certain venues in LA and opening some shows for some bands and then all of a sudden headlining arenas and then doing it consistently, it just made me so happy and proud to watch you guys do that.
Yeah. I know there was that festival that we did that like the one year we were the opener out of like 7 or 8.
Yeah.
And that very next year we headlined it. It's
Yeah.
like so insane, right?
Right.
And now you're stuck with me.
I mean,
I like being stuck with you.
He's
Booker.
done okay. Poor
I've always-
Striker's stuck with Booker.
he knows, Stryker knows that like I, you know, growing up in LA and listening to the radio, it's like you don't, you are stuck with whoever's on the radio.
Yeah.
Right. Like sometimes you're there for the music, but you don't love the DJs. And I remembered, I told him so. Like when we first met, I was like, "Oh, dude, they're so lucky to have you." Like, because we loved listening to
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
You know,
Thanks
no
for saying
disrespect to some of the other ones, but like,
Yeah, they
we
were
just
terrible.
we just felt really like, oh, he's like one of us.
Yeah.
that. Thanks, Mike.
And
I appreciate that.
oh, I remember what I was gonna say though. So when we were in the studio, you asked about a story about the time, just to like transport you back. Like
Yeah.
we were able to get to a point when we were making the record where we kind of disregarded the rise to this whole thing we're talking about, like the rise to success and like, oh, it's like they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger. We were able to like get back to just focusing on like making good songs. And I remember driving in to the studio one day and we had Faint, and the chorus of Faint was just power chords that went da 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 da, and it was like very heavy and like kind of a tough song. But I just kept thinking like, I feel like this song is bigger than the shape of it right now. And I remembered having this idea as I hit the driveway at NRG Studio in North Hollywood and running into the control room, be like, "You guys, can we open up Faint? Like, I have an idea. I know how to fix it. I know how to make it." But they're like, we're working on this other thing. I'm like, turn it off. Shut it down. Like,
It's here. It's got to be here.
Turn on the guitars. Give me the guitar. And I changed the power chords to octaves. So they in the register of the song, they move way up in frequency, and that became like a melody. And then I put chords under. I was like, these are the chords, and I put the chords underneath it and opened up melody underneath Chester singing. Everything else was already there. Changed the whole thing, then recorded the bass over it. I think I did the bass as well, and then listened to it, and everyone was like, "Dude, what just happened to this song?" Like, it was already. We liked it. It was good.
Yeah.
But we were like, that's one of the best songs. And to this day, I think that's still my favorite song on the record.
Wow.
Not because of that moment, but because it just became
Yeah.
this. It hit a hole. It went as far as it could go.
I want to make sure I get these dates right. So April 7th, the Meteora 20th anniversary edition is going to be available. Lost, of course, is the new song. Mike, Shinoda, thank you so much for hanging out with Booker and I. Congrats on the solo material as well.
Thank you.
And all the producing. What's the name of that song, though? I don't think you told us.
So, okay, so the Linkin Park, this is like stuff for you guys to listen out for. Linkin Park song is called Lost. It's out like this week. My song is called In My Head. So just keep an ear out.
We will. It's great to see
And
you.
Meteora, and by the way,
Yeah?
the Meteora box set is like, for those that are interested in that thing, it's so massive. It's like 4 albums worth of stuff. It's a bunch of DVDs worth of stuff. The box set, physical box set, has a whole book about the album and the art and all, and has prints and stickers and.
Is there a
it's-
vinyl
There are
companion?
5 vinyl records in there. It's so big. We put a lot into this thing.
Very cool. Very cool. You're lovely. You're just lovely. I love speaking with you, and this has been a good time, man.
It has been a good time.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Mike. We're
Thanks,
excited. We're in our starting block because of you right now.
Mike Shinoda. There you go.